Welcome to VPG's Virtual Watercooler Chat podcast, a platform that features professionals across a variety of industries and promotes growth mindset principles with a central pillar of championing the achievements of women. Our conversations explore a wide spectrum of backgrounds, experiences, and perspectives, creating a vibrant mosaic that enriches our collective understanding and strengthens our commitment to growth and empowerment. Today, we're speaking with Jessica Broyles, VP of IP Solutions and Services at UnitedLex. Based in Dallas, Texas, Jessica brings more than 15 years of experience in legal operations, with deep expertise in IP strategy, M&A integration, and legal technology transformation. She is best known for her work on enterprise-wide transformation initiatives, including multi-billion-dollar M&A integrations and the creation of one of the world's first virtual patent marking programs. A passionate mentor and people builder, Jessica is especially focused on helping legal professionals develop the human judgment, leadership presence, and strategic mindset that technology cannot replace. Let's get started.
Jessica Broyles, how are you doing?
I am always doing well when I get to see Ms. Ashley Chung. How are you today?
God. Welcome. I specifically want to thank you for all of your support. I'm so grateful to Adapt.Legal for connecting us. We scheduled this from a tornado watch in person, and now we are doing this across Zoom and talking about modern legal ops. So are you ready?
I am so ready. I have been ready for 15 years to have that conversation. That's the reason why I entered in this space, because I knew one day
you would have the virtual watercooler chat.
Yes, that was really my end goal, and now I have made it.
Let's talk about Jessica Broyles. Can you share a few facts about yourself with our audience?
I have been in the legal operations space for about 15 years. I am the Vice President of IP Solutions at UnitedLex, so I have to represent my organization, but I handle complex legal operations problems, funsies for North America. I'm based here in Dallas, Texas, the most American state you can find, and I focus on IP strategy, M&A integration, and legal technology transformation.
How would you define modern legal ops to someone that is completely outside this field?
That is the discipline of making legal work better. So it's not necessarily what are the attorneys doing, but it's really begging the question, how is the legal department as a whole, this collective of talented individuals, how are they creating measurable value for the organization? And then when you start thinking that way as an outsider, you start realizing, okay, this is where we are grabbing a group of people coming together and they're looking at processes, they're looking at data integrity, looking at enterprise-wide technology solutions, and trying to make those ingredients into a wonderful meal for our friends, not only in the legal department, but really the whole organization to be able to run more efficiently.
Now, does that also extend to law firms and other practitioners within the field that are not only attorneys?
Yes, of course. I'm a non-attorney. You're a non-attorney. A lot of our friends are non-attorneys. A lot of our friends are attorneys. But really, what's interesting, especially in the intellectual property area, and it has bled into legal operations, is that there is this whole ecosystem of players that interact with each other on the daily and globally. The law firms, the corporations, and service providers, all three across the globe are intermingling together and trying to improve processes, interacting together on the same platforms. You'll have a company, an organization that is looking to improve their legal operations, whether it be some sort of database or an e-billing platform to run their invoicing through. Well, now the law firms have no choice. Service providers have no choice. They need to not only understand these processes and these systems, but they're actually logging into the same platforms and vice versa. You're having law firms that are increasing their technology use and advancement, but then now opening up part of their systems to their clients so that everyone can get their beautiful dashboards that we're all slowly getting addicted to. Right?
Dashboard. You are now in a senior executive position, but you started in docketing. What drove you toward legal operations over other traditional legal careers? You are brilliant, so I think that you'll be a fine attorney, but I'm really grateful that the legal ops space has someone like you. What did that climb actually look like?
I did not have this grand plan. What's interesting is how did we end up in this space? I think that a lot of individuals, especially non-attorneys in the legal operations or IP operations space, it's always interesting to find out how we ended up here. I was a stay-at-home girlfriend at the time. I just ended up in a position with law firm life. There's hierarchy. I was at the bottom of the totem pole, but I had one thing that I think a lot of us have in common was curiosity. I was curious. I was interested. I started sticking my nose in different places, and I found that a lot of these problems or issues, these were just puzzles, it seemed like to me. I said, oh, this just needs to be tweaked. This just needs to be turned, just adjusted, and then things will start to move smoothly. I had the great benefit of starting off my career at a boutique IP law firm with a managing partner that was a very big advocate of constant improvements and trying to continue education and provide access to those that wanted to learn and that were curious. And so that is where, by the, I would say, grace of others, people allowing me to take that curiosity and learn from it, that really helped me navigate into my career and then move on to the next steps. And I would say two things really kept me motivated. One was that it was rewarding. It was so rewarding to be able to have that instant gratification of fixing a problem or improving a process where you are seeing in real time the relief on a human's face without any words. You know the impact of what you just implemented. You feel it. You feel the impact. So I would say that it was rewarding to say, wow, I have a skill. My annoying as a child, why? But why? And so it was like, oh, this is actually helpful. The second part was, honestly, then I didn't have to go to law school.
That's really intriguing, actually, because I also chose not to go to law school. When I finished my senior year, instead I chose grad school, and I studied East Asian languages and cultures and political science and communications, different things. I thought that I was going to go work for a think tank. Never thought that I would be in the legal career. Serendipity, accident, whatever that you call it. I had to go to a temp job because my very first job did not quite work out the way that I had expected. So I made a bold decision. I was like, I'm just going to quit. I just felt like the company was not being very truthful to me. And I was young and I can afford to just say, I'm just going to do something different. I think as you get older, it's a little bit more difficult because you have more experiences and you know how to be scared. That's how I actually got into the legal space, even though I took law courses when I was in my master program. And then I just ended up like, I'm just going to do a temp job, just 8 minutes away from my home. I could watch some soap opera at lunch and save some money, whatever. It was a construction litigation firm. And that's how I actually break into the legal space. I was a project assistant, and then people were asking me, why didn't you tell us that you have a master's degree? It's like, it's not relevant to my job. I don't know. I just kind of do something like this. And then the office manager introduced me to one of the rainmaker, and it's like, so-and-so wanted to see you. So he came over and then we met, and then I call him by his like Mr., very deferential. And I said, hi, Mr. Lucas. And he's my mentor and my friend's still, and he just turned 72. I'm really grateful to have friends like that and then people that guide me through this. But it's not about me. So let me get back to you. Legal operation, especially in IP, is being disrupted faster than most practice areas that I can see. What's the most underestimated risk that legal teams are sleepwalking into right now?
Yes, I think everyone's getting a little excited, especially about AI. I like that phrase. What are we sleepwalking into? Because that is what happens when we get excited about things. We start narrowing our focus. And the big thing right now is thinking that AI is solely a technology problem or a technology solution. This is something where the real risk with AI is not simply adoption of AI and implementing an AI platform in some way. It's the misalignment, that excitement, that rushing into things that could occur. You really have to take a step back, and instead of racing to implement something, we really need to think about, okay, does this fit into our existing processes? Does this fit into our corporate governance structure? What does our data quality look like? Are we ready to cook this meal? Do we have all the ingredients? Do we need to go to the store? What do our talent models look like? Every organization is going to be different in the team makeup, right? So really looking at the people. Whenever I would implement a tool, in the enterprise-wide solution, and I don't like this phrase, but it's very applicable. You're only as strong as your weakest link. You can have a Porsche in the garage, but if no one knows how to drive a stick shift, then that's not really a great solution for you. You need something that people can actually utilize. And I think that's really where the biggest risk is, not taking a step back, enabling our people, protecting our people with security and guardrails, and just really honing in on the people. Again, not getting too excited about the technology, because if you implement a broken process, then you are not going to result in innovation. You're just going to fail faster.
Not to mention, it could be having such a significant impact on the human side. It could be demoralizing, like you said, the security. People are so afraid of being replaced by AI, but you're really just being replaced by the people who knows how to work AI.
AI is definitely set up to be a tool to help both attorneys and non-attorneys. I think there definitely is this immediate fear that, let's just face it, when you're in a law firm environment, a lot of those spaces, you're already operating in fear mode. You're worried about missing deadlines, making a mistake, and you have lots of opportunities on the daily to make mistakes, losing clients on behalf of your attorneys. There's already that fear that is there. And then now you have this shiny, new, unknown that is in the space where this could replace you. It's not. It's definitely not. It's not in the space to replace, but it is definitely in that mode where there's more emphasis on the quality of the human, the knowledge of the human, both on the front end and the back end. So we need to embrace prompting. If we can take our very niche skill sets and then marry that with just a little bit of prompting structure and templates and just familiarize ourselves, powerful. And then on the back end is the review, is that there are hallucinations, there are terms that are misapplied, and we know, and I will say this, I went back and forth with one of the AI platforms that I will not name, and it did not understand what a US agent was. I just wanted to use the phrase US agent. It was very obvious that it kept trying to change what the core of a US agent was, and so it didn't make any sense.
So are you talking about US patent agent, or are you talking about some other form of agent?
A US patent agent, yeah. I was writing something, I tried to use the phrase US agent, and it did not like it. And I thought, that's a very straightforward term. So the emphasis right now is that, like I said, on the front end, I think we can be very powerful. Non-attorneys and attorneys in the legal operations space, we can be very, very powerful on the front end, where our strength, that it's not going to be replaceable, is no one can replace the years of experience that we have had. Those real mistakes that you made where you go crying to your attorney because you think you're going to get fired.
Or the attorney is not reviewing, that would cause sanction by judges, because
Right.
there are cases that are like that, right? I mean, you cannot just do a brief. Your clients pay you for your brand and then for your experience. I work with a lot of creatives on my team, and artists, a lot of times, they don't necessarily, like, when you have Mid-Journey and people like generating all kinds of really cool visuals, but at the same time, I really do want to support the artists. So there seems to be a balance that I have to strike him like, hey, listen, I do have to use AI on some stuff, but for enhancement, not for origination. There were some times it's like I didn't have enough time and I was like, oh, let's do this and send it to the team to review. And not one person said anything. I don't know whether they read it. I finally had a chance to take a look at it. This is not for clients, just something for me to think about. And I was like, wait, I don't understand a word that this says. But why is no one questioning me? I think that the training module, they talk about large language model, how you train your AI. I think that when you were talking about the agent, US agent, maybe the training pool, it might be just thinking about agent in a general sense and not specific examples that have been generated to talk about US patent agent. So maybe it just needs to have more of those discussion and also involve your team in terms of we're not replacing you and we're not having you train an AI to replace you for your job. It is inevitable that we're sleepwalking into that way or intentionally walking into that way. So I think that the critical part of it is really communication.
Yes, that is key always, right? With any sort of changes, you want to let people know where are we going, and then when you're there, where we are, and always where we're going to be next. You really sparked something with me when you said that with communication, because I think non-attorneys specifically, when they're looking at trying to utilize and trying to adopt any type of tool, you have to, as a leader or anyone that is trying to force this down your team's throats, is being able to communicate, but communicate what? Communicate the benefit. Anytime I have gotten clients or global divisions when I used to work at a company and I was corporate, no one was happy when corporate came to town, is communicating why this is going to be good for you, the individual. How is this going to help you? And so with a lot of the AI right now, I think where people are hitting the mark as far as getting these out to the teams is that they're generalizing it too much for my taste. I don't think we should be looking at any sort of AI and saying, hey, department, this is how it's going to benefit you. These are also great. I think you really need to hone down on individual roles and, if you can, individual people even more so, and find that thing that is going to benefit them. If you're talking to docketers, you may just highlight something that's different than when you're talking to paralegals and then also to attorneys. I think once you personalize it and give someone something that can benefit them on the daily, then it's not as threatening, right? It becomes a tool instead of a competitor, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, different stakeholders in projects have different interests, and I think that leads me to the next question. Mentorship in legal ops used to mean passing down institutional knowledge, and now that AI can service information instantly, just typing, what does a mentor actually give that a prompt can't, and also help ease that fear, especially with the sea changes that is going on in legal and other spaces?
Yes, and you'll notice a theme. It's just getting back to that human connection and interaction. A human mentor is going to have perspective, it's going to be able to provide context and judgment. I feel that I get my best learning opportunities from my mentors that are honest with me and calling me out and not doing that's a great idea. Sometimes I do need that, like, lady, step back, sit down a moment, sit down. Your ego is coming into play right now, your pride. It's getting a human that can help you interpret the information or interpret the situation or experience that you're having. Whereas AI, yeah, you can shoot some information into it and you can retrieve information, but then you have to, with your own individual experience, which it doesn't matter if you've been in the professional field for decades, we all have something to learn from each other. And so I really do feel that when it comes to mentorship, having that human experience, having that human connection is just irreplaceable when it comes to AI. And I'll tell you, I have to say, there is nothing like the voice of someone that has lived and survived through a very similar situation that you are currently going through. You can hear it, you can feel it when someone says, "Oh, you're doing that. I hated those." You just cannot replace that with a mentor. And that's what I personally have found as very valuable from my own relationships.
That's wonderful. As you were talking about the mentorship experience, like my mentor Mike, we do a once a year luncheon. We have done it for years. And several years ago, I was still in a mentee position, but sometimes I think your mentors can learn so much from you because time has changed. So early on, I would be sitting at lunch and he'll be asking me questions, rapid fire questions. So what's been going on? Because we only do this pretty much once a year. So he would go like, what about this? What's the reasoning for this? He's an attorney, so he's going to ask me all of these questions. And I have started VPG like 6 years, and this is like my 6th year. So the year I left my firm, I had a lunch with him, and he was saying to me, "So what are you going to tell your firm that you're leaving?" I said, "I haven't figured it out yet." He said, "That's what you're going to tell them? Anyone who knows you would know that that's not possible, because you always have this plan like years in advance." I was a non-attorney. So to me, it's like the least I said, the better it would be for me. Because there's a lot of people who said that, well, don't share your plan until you actually have it, that type of thing. And he gave me a different insight. He goes, how are people going to know and hire you if they don't know that you actually have a business or that you're planning for a business? And I was like, oh, that's interesting. So I actually follow his advice. There are other advice that he gave me that was pretty sound. This past year, I had lunch with him and we kind of gone through it. He's like, oh my God, you're doing so much. This time is much more of a conversation instead of sort of like him asking me a lot of questions. I always enjoy a conversation, but he's like, we became friends. So he was like saying to me, "So were you surprised? Because you're doing really well, Ash. I really am very proud of you." But my children tell me that you cannot be proud of someone because you don't own them. I was like, okay, that's fine. I mean, the children are very accomplished people. I said, you could be proud of me. It's okay. Then I said, well, are you surprised that I'm successful? He was like, yes and no. Because I always knew that the consulting part, you will be fine. And one of the things that he taught me and gave me, and I still remember, he was like, you always have to remember why you decided to come out and do your own consulting. Because there are going to be opportunities that you will make a whole lot of money because people will need your service. And then if you just do this for money, then you may have forgotten why you decided to do this. So I always have this for 6 years. That's something in the back of my mind before I actually accept any business or clients. And I would think, is this really going to serve me? Now, boundary issues, that does not help, but I'm learning. When he said that, no, I don't think that I'm surprised about the consulting part. What I'm really surprised about is all the other peripheral things that actually service, like the podcast. We've talked about how things did not work in the beginning and you were struggling. I thought that it would stop, but it didn't stop and you just continue. I said, yeah, I mean, I kind of make things up as it goes along. It's good to have a team that actually helps. So that was really, really interesting. And that particular conversation, it was so enjoyable because I feel like that I have validation. It's not good to have validation from other people if you don't value yourself. But when you actually begin to think, oh, what I'm doing is pretty cool. And I get Jessica on the Virtual Watercooler Chat. I get like some amazing people on the chat. It's okay to have validation if you actually think that you're making a difference. That's a long-winded way of sharing how you became a vice president and I became a principal and founder, and learning how to navigate the legal system without being an attorney is incredibly challenging.
For a number of years, I had to fight that battle of overcoming the surprise that I was not an attorney. I'm coming in to fix problems that are in the legal space, but you don't need an attorney involved. It's just tangential. And I've had some uncomfortable conversations where it really got to me and my insecurities and my self-esteem on having to feel like I had to prove myself because I was not an attorney trying to lead legal work and projects for companies. It's public knowledge that I can share. I thought about this. I did have kind of a oh my gosh moment when I'm sitting in a conference room at the Microsoft campus. I had been working with the patent operations team there for a number of years, and I have a very prestigious associate's degree from a community college in Michigan. But I showed up. I think the biggest thing is that I did not let my own insecurities stop me from helping others. That's the way I viewed it. You have to have a good why of what you're doing. And I kind of alluded earlier is that my why in this field of IP operations specifically and legal operations, because it just, everybody just loves IP. It was that I did not let my insecurities block me from my opportunities. And I think that is something that a lot of people, we get in each other's heads. I've been open about this, that I'm technically an immigrant. I moved here when I was 8 months old, and I lived in a very small rural farm town in Michigan. And I grew up always feeling like the other, always feeling like I had eyes on me. Not necessarily that they were bad eyes, but I always felt like I was being monitored or observed, noticed. And I think having that, being comfortable, being uncomfortable. I think that's been the key. I'm still getting used to it, is to saying my success, is saying, oh my gosh, I've worked with patent leaders, global leaders in this space. You and I, we are connected professionally to some of the biggest names out there in the IP space that we have the joy and benefit of being able to call these people our friends. It has been an amazing journey, and it's still going. But really, I think the biggest thing is not letting that inner voice tell you that you're any less than what you truly are.
That is totally true, because I'm also immigrant. I did not come here 8 months old. I came here when I was like maybe 12, 13 years old. And then at some point, we moved to Lawrence, Kansas. Talk about rural. My parents had a Chinese restaurant. I worked with them. It's like success is the last thing that people will forgive. And sometimes growing up, especially if you don't necessarily have a role model that you are aware of. Like my parents are not highly educated. And then it's like, how did you actually get to where you are without knowing attorneys? I mean, I know attorneys, professors, and different things, but it's like, it didn't seem like it's conceivable for you to actually get into that space. If you don't get out of your comfort zone, you just don't grow. I used to be so petrified about speaking. I still am not super comfortable, but I can prep. This is where mentorship and talking to successful people cross disciplines. Like, for example, one of the attorney, Jennifer Wu from Greenbridge Wu, was telling me that she does not script when she like do her oral argument or anything like that. No outlines, and she just kind of writes them stuff, because if you don't script, it comes out more naturally and more convincing. It takes some getting used to it. So when I do training, for example, podcasts, sometimes I will have questions and I'll just kind of let it go wherever it might. Even when I'm doing training, I'll have an outline. Maybe I'll have a presentation. I don't talk it through. I was training a group of paralegals, and I was like, all right, we're going to go through the slides in 5 or 6 minutes. I'm not going to talk through everything, but instead I have exhibit A through E. We're going to go through each one of them, because I suspect that you might not have seen it. If you have seen it, you might not know what to pay attention. So we go through different things for the very niche practice that I'm actually doing, and I invited a colleague of mine, an attorney, because there's so many rule changes. I wanted an attorney to address it. This is where I know my limit. My boundary is that I might be a really good paralegal case manager, but there are so many legal changes that I'm not comfortable talking about it, just because I don't have that law degree, and I don't want to get into the optics of doing unauthorized practice of law. So that's the part where, as proud as I am of whatever I do and however I am doing, I wanted to make sure that I draw that boundaries. I was like, okay, the first 30 minutes is going to be an attorney talking about the legal changes. And then after that, we get practical. What do we need to do? What do we need to work with the attorneys and stuff like that? So I thought that that is really growth. And am I fearful? Yeah, probably sometimes I'll have probably the first 3 minutes of not really anxiety, but a little bit of, I like to say, excitement instead of anxiousness, because it changed the chemical in your brain and it reframed your mindset to know that, oh, I'm excited about this project. And we had this particular discussion. And sometimes, like when you're facilitating, because you were facilitating at the Guiding Success Building Intergeneration Leaders, sometimes when you're talking with people, they might have one or two people that would dominate the discussion. And facilitator who are experienced would actually have chances to divert, like, oh, we have about a few minutes left. Let's have someone else talk now without being like you're hogging the time right now. So you want to be respectful of people sharing, but also making sure that other people are getting the opportunity to speak up too. So that's that. Last question. As the VP of IP Solution and Services at UnitedLex, you're leading through constant change. What's a decision you made or had to defend that require you to trust your instinct over the data in front of you?
That is a very good question, because I think a lot of us are in this scenario right now. So there are modern situations where the data lags behind reality. So you do not have the clear data and information that you are able to utilize to advocate for whatever investment you're looking for, whether it be resources, headcount, that's a big one, trying to find more people, or looking at a process redesign that you have to change processes before actually implementing. And so this is where I've had to do both avenues, where I've had to look ahead and realize we have a gap. We need resources in certain jurisdictions that can handle certain things. And we also need to change our processes on certain things. And that is where it's a lot easier in an ask where you can say, look, this has been going on for X amount of years, and if we change it to this, then we can drive costs down by X amount. What we have to do now is be creative in finding tangible KPIs that don't exist, finding metrics that you can have confidence in that don't necessarily exist. And so that's where I have really focused more on the culture of an organization, the overarching goals of that culture. What does the GC looking for? What's that managing partner trying to look for? And then how is this aligning with that decision? And eventually then utilizing the data later after the fact to be able to say, we're going to look at these metrics and we're going to use them as a pat ourselves on the back, high five each other, because now we can see by the metrics, but we cannot utilize the metrics as our decision making at this time, which I think is better, because as a career consultant before, metrics were really utilized for that decision making. What's the ROI on this? What is our current status and current state? And then using that current state as a benchmark on, all right, well, then where do we want to be? And I feel like there was just too much noise on, let's analyze and assess this hot mess, really was what it was. Figure out all the stuff we're doing wrong right now so that we can figure out what we can do to fix it. No, fix it and then analyze that and get yourselves in a good point. So that's really where, to get back to your question, is where have I been able to trust my instincts, is that, as I stated, you really have to trust your experience, what you learned from those experiences, because that's what our instincts are, is learning from our experiences and being able to apply that. And that's where I've had to successfully drive some changes. I've had to have the confidence in learning from my mistakes to tell people, not ask them, tell them they need to trust me. And that's really where I have benefited lately, is that I now have the confidence to not ask people, do you trust me? Or try to persuade them to trust me. I've been able to say, hey, this is what's happened to me in the past. This is what I've witnessed in the past. I know what went wrong. You need to trust me. And then we need to go ahead and do this the right way. And thankfully, I've chosen wisely in my partners. And you've mentioned that as well. I've said the phrase clients, but I call my clients partners now. I call my partners partners. I call my colleagues partners, because that is the space that we're in at this time, is that we have to collaborate with one another and really feel like we're on the same team. Even with the United States Patent and Trademark Office, you're seeing more collaboration, more open dialogue with that in the legal operations space as a whole. You're seeing law firms and corporates and service providers all bring their heads together, and professional networks, everyone coming together to try to solve these problems. And almost always the question is, well, what did you guys do? Have you seen this before? That's where the value lies. It's who's dealt with this mess in the past. And I will close with this. I've dealt with a lot of messes. So I guess that's the benefit, is I've had too many messes to count. And so I turned those lemons into lemonade with my partners and my friends. We collaborate. I'm on the phone with friends at organizations where I'm not charging them for my time. I am just being a rubber ducky with them and letting them know, have I done this in the past? Or maybe reminding them, hey, you remember that one time that this is that same type of issue?
Well, thank you so much. I would be remiss to mention organizations such as LegalOps.com, like Connie Branton, Jeff Franke, and our friends from Adapt.legal, and that's where we met both times. So those are the people that really help build the community that we have and share the lessons that we learn. And so with that, I wanted to thank you for being a partner and also being so amazing and supportive in so many events that VPG is doing and being part of the Adapt Communications Committee.
Well, I want to thank you as well. I should have started off with that. And I wanted to say one last thing about you, Ashley. It's incredible the voices that you are bringing out into this space. It's always an honor to have the opportunity to speak with someone like yourself, because I think the value that you really bring to this community is that not only are you in the thick of it on modern day issues in the whole legal operations world, but you carry this legacy information. I mean, you've seen the evolutionary history of the space, and I won't say how many years. I'll let you divulge.
I started at 3.
Thank you, Ashley, to what you bring to your partners and your clients and this community.